everyone, happy Tuesday. I have just noticed that there are a few little leafy bits up here that I hadn't done yesterday that I'm just going to fill in with my number 61, the magenta-y, no, what do they call it? Dark mauve. And then we're going to move on to the flowers. There'll probably be a few more bits. I've kept these colours handy so I can remember what I used, because I think I'm likely to find more little bits like here that I've forgotten, so bear with me. Well, you might want to colour them in if you didn't do them either. I'm saying if you forgot, well, it's me that forgot, not you. You may have coloured them in, thinking she's forgotten. I think that's it. But as I say, we'll find out. Okay, let's do the flowers and the berries next. These berries, not these berries. We'll do that in a minute. I'm thinking blues, flowers and berries in blue. So I'm going to grab the darkest, I think this is the darkest blue, the number 3. What's it called? Just giving it a sharpen while I look at the name. Blue. It is called Blue. That's very exciting, isn't it? So number 3, and I'm going to do the berries. Now I'm going to keep these really simple, as I have been all this picture. So I'm just going to layer it up a little bit on the outside of our berry. And then bring it into the middle a bit lighter. So just going to go over it and over it until I'm happy with the transition of colour, how dark it is, etc. And then move on to the next one. You may want to spend longer fiddling than I do. It depends how light your layers are and what effect you want to get. Really. I just made myself a coffee, but I didn't drink it. I came in and recorded, so I'm hoping that it won't be stone cold by the time I'm finished. If I go on too long, I may pause and go and grab it, but I wouldn't have it in here because I don't want to hold it over my page. I saw some fabulous pages yesterday coloured with coffee rings on them, but they have been drawn in pencil to try and antique the page. It was amazing, but that isn't the look I'm going for on this page. Right, so there's our blueberries. I don't think they look too out of place. I think I purposely did them dark. I think had they been light they might have not looked quite right. Oh, excuse me, sniffing and ugh. Right, I have my next blue is the number 33. It is the cobalt blue, it's called, and I'm going to use it for the centres of these two down here. Let's push up a tad so you can see. Now what I do with these, a light layer over, a light layer over. Then I'm going to colour it a little bit like the berry, really, darker on the outside and then less to the middle. So there's just the layer that we put down. I'm just going to work those layers a little bit more, and then these pieces I'm going to do fairly dark, so layer up a bit. So the same on this one, working those layers around the outside and then bringing them in. On all of those little spiky bits. I'm just having a look. Now up here on these we have a little bit of a patterning here, so I'm going to be using this dark colour on here. Again, like when we did this yesterday with the leaf here and these dots, if the brand you're using is smudgy, then do this last, not first, but I'm just sort of marking it out as yeah, while I sort of think about it really. I think that's all of those. Yeah, I think that's it for now with that one. I may go back to it. And then I'm going to use my light blue, which is number 30. It's actually called, I even written it down. Light blue. I have written it down. Okay, so these sort of bell-shaped ones, they're all quite similar. I'm going to do them in a similar way. Going to make them a bit darker at the bottom. Now I tend to like starting dark, so I'm going to start at the bottom and then lighter at the top. I think it makes sense to make it lighter at the top where the light would be catching, but if you would rather do it the other way, that's fine, because it might not necessarily be about the light. It might just be that the colour of the actual flower fades downwards. You know, it depends what you're trying to depict really, but I'm just doing it that way. And I think I'm going to keep these the same, so a bit darker down here, so just layering it up a little bit more and then lighter as we go up. Now we've got a little pattern drawn on these. You can just let that shine through in the black. You can go over it in white, but because we're using quite a pale colour and with minimal pressure and only one layer, I think if you use white it would probably just end up erasing the pattern and you just wouldn't be able to see it. So if you really want, if you want to do that pattern in white, you would have to build your layers of colour up a lot more intensely, because it'll just look like there's a bit of white paper showing through otherwise, and won't really give the effect that I think you might be after. That I'm just probably going to leave it like that. Yeah, these are the same. I might do those a little bit differently, just because I can, not for any other reason, just to show you something different really. So keeping these all the same just makes it nice and simple. Now what I think I'll do with these, just make it darker at the top and then fade it down towards the bottom. And then it's still really simple, just looks slightly different. Because this is quite a pale blue, you can't necessarily see much of a difference in colour anyway. And it's up to you if you want to layer it up harder. You can add a darker blue as well if you want, in the areas where you want it to be a bit darker, if you want to make that effect look more emphasised. But I'm quite happy just using one colour. I find it's nice and chilled, nice and easy. And it's still, I'm happy still with the result. So I hope everyone's well. We're all okay. Looking forward to half term next week, very much so. Although recording is a little trickier, not because having the children home makes it tricky in any way, it's just that I have to shut the door of the office when I'm recording, when people are here, and it just means every time I go in and out I have to open and close the door, which is a pain. And if my son is recording or streaming, then I have to be really quiet. I can't make sure the door doesn't bang. Now this door of this room bangs. I'm trying to make this a little darker towards the centre of the flower and lighter towards the tip. It's quite difficult because it's quite a pale colour. That's what my aim is. You might not be able to see it. But yeah, the door's got a door closer on it, like a fire door. It is a fire door. We had to have fire doors installed in our house when we had our loft conversion. You don't always have to have that done in the UK, but because we've already had 3 stories, so it took us to 4. Building regs said we had to have fire doors on every bedroom, well, on every room actually, apart from the ensuite bathroom. Yeah, that's the only room that hasn't got a fire door on it. even the understairs cupboard. But that's because Harry Potter lives there, so we have to have a fire door, and it's a bedroom. No, of course Harry Potter doesn't live there. It's just a story. My children live there. Anyway, I think it's because it leads through to next door. It's on the boundary wall, because we're in a terrace, so we've got houses each side. We've got a house on one side which is a mirror image of ours, so it's sort of like a semi-detached, as we would call it in the UK. And then on the other side we've got a block of 3 flats. Sounds enormous, but it's not 3 flats. We've got 3 flats, and it's their sort of hallway, downstairs hallway behind our understairs cupboard, and then the downstairs bedroom against our kitchen wall, and yeah, and then the middle flat is on our first floor. You Americans would say second floor. We have to be confusing and do it differently to you. So our ground floor would be called ground, or G, on a lift or elevator. Our first floor is the next floor up, whereas in America the first floor is the ground floor. It sort of makes sense. Well, both of them make sense to me. Anyway, so we have got basically a ground floor, and with our kitchen on, and we have a cloakroom, and we used to have a garage on that floor, but most of it is now part of our kitchen. Then we have the next floor up is our sitting room and this office. And sitting room is a lounge diner, but we just use it as a big family sitting room with all our desks in and things, so we can all be together. And I'm going to do these bricks in grey. I've only got one grey in my set. It is number 80. So, and what I'm going to try and do is do them a little darker around the edge and a little lighter in the middle, just to try and give them a little bit of shape. Yes, so, and then the next floor up, we have our bedroom, me and my husband's bedroom, which is an ensuite. It's got a little shower. It's a tiny bathroom with a little tiny shower. And the stairs come under. We've got a cupboard, like a vanity with the sink on, and the stairs come through under there, so the cupboard's quite small. And then we've got another bedroom, which is, when we were looking around the house, they tried to sell it as a double, but it's not. You can fit a smaller double bed in. I think a queen size is a slightly smaller double bed, but no, it's a single room really. My one son's in there, and there is a family bathroom which has got a bath and a shower in. And then up again, the attic, we converted into a bedroom for my other boy, and it's got an ensuite in there. But it's got a sloping ceiling in the ensuite. You can stand up fully in the shower, but the other parts of the bathroom, like the sink, you have to stoop to use the sink because of the sloping ceiling. And his bed is under the slope, so he likes that because he likes to be really cosy. So having his bed under the sloping of the ceiling, he really likes. So that's good. So we have sort of tall, narrow house really, but it suits us really well. And we're really lucky because we bought it in 2001. We got a mortgage, and we've paid it off, which is nice. We were able to, because interest rates were very low, we were able to pay a bit extra off, so we paid it off a little bit early. But we saved hard. We buy lots of art materials, but we don't buy lots of clothes. We don't have pets. We don't buy the kids' computer games. Are expensive. We buy them expensive computers, but they have to last. You know, we don't have mobile phone contracts. We don't have sort of satellite television or anything like that. You know, so we used our money to pay that back early instead. Right, now we're at the bit that I don't know what colours to do. Now it's quite a nice idea to have it all matching, but this is a piece of wood, this table, and I don't think it can be grey. So I think it's time to introduce some more colours. Now, I don't really want to go for the orangey browns because I think they're a bit warm. It's quite cold, this picture. So I'm going to use 76, which is a really dark brown for the table. So I'm going to put quite a light layer on and then just sort of see how it looks really. So I'm using my pencil on its side I just want to get some colour down so I can just examine it really and see, because I've explained this before, but I can't visualise, so I've got no idea what this is going to look like with the colour down. A lot of people they can just see the picture in their head, imagine what it's going to look like and work out whether the colour's going to work. Not me. I have got, I can visualise a few things, but not very much, but faces completely not. So if someone said to me, what does your husband look like? I could not bring a picture of his face up in my head. I couldn't bring up a picture of my children or my parents or anything. What happens is, I'm going to do this edge quite dark because I think it would be more shadowed because it's on the side. I'm going to do that first. What happens is when I try and bring up a face in my head, I can occasionally see hair, but the face is just blank. There's just nothing there. So I can't do it. I can't draw from memory because I can't see the thing that I'm trying to draw. Now I think this table does need to be darker. I'm going to put another layer on, but I don't want it to be as dark as the side. Okay, so I'm just going to gently increase that colour a little bit. I'm quite happy with there being lines like this because it's wood. So it makes it quite challenging for me, and I can occasionally see some things, but objects more, but faces absolutely not. And it makes it quite hard if I've only just met if I've met someone once, I don't always, the next time I see them, I don't always recognise them. And I don't give people eye contact. And my sister said, oh, that's a sign of autism. And I said, well, it could be. But actually, my husband says, you can't see people's faces in your head. So what is the point in you looking at their face? Because you're not going to be able to see it after you've finished talking to them. So maybe that's why you don't look at them in the face. I do find, I put a bit of shadow in here in front of the objects like that. I do sometimes find it a bit awkward giving eye contact, and it's because I'm going to put some shadow on the leaves as well, and I'm going to use the brown. I think it'll work as a sort of shadow colour even on top of the pink. When I was at school, if you gave eye contact to a boy, he thought you fancied him. So I stopped giving eye contact to anybody because it was horrible. So I just don't do it. It makes me feel uncomfortable because I think they might think I fancy them or something. It's weird. I just have that association of being teased about it. Right. Now, all of our... Ooh, make a lot of noise. All of our bowls and pots, I thought it might work well if we did them all the same colour, to sort of match each other and to match, you know, we've got a lot of similar colours going on. So I was thinking maybe I could grab my other blue. I've got this blue left, which is the number 37, which is the cyan. And I thought I could do all the pots this colour. Now I know they're very different and they've got various markings and things on them, but I think we can work with it. So for example, this one, I'm going to make it a little darker each side, and I'm going to just try and make them look a little bit shiny, thinking that they're sort of porcelain pots, maybe, where they would have a glaze that might be shiny. So yes, I'm sort of slightly envious of people who can say, oh, the picture didn't turn out how I expected, and I'm like, well, you're lucky you had some sort of expectation maybe, but on the other hand, maybe it's better not to. have an expectation. And then you notice I'm colouring right over the top of the printing. I might go over these details later in another colour. I'm just doing all my basic colour first. So yeah, I sort of think, well, maybe it'd be nice to be able to imagine, but on the other hand, I can't ever be disappointed that it hasn't turned out how I expected, because unless I'm copying somebody else's picture, I can't have an expectation, because I can't imagine what it would look like. Now, my husband had this thing where when we are having our loft conversion done, I've never been up to the attic because I'm too scared of going on a ladder. So I didn't know what it looked like. So he was trying to describe it to me, and as the work was being done, he was trying to describe to me what it looked like. I just couldn't do it. He could draw it out, that helped. But no. It's still weirds me out. I have to tell you why. It's quite funny. The stairs that go up to the attic room have a turn in them. So you go up half of them, and then they're sort of slightly spiral. So when you get to the top, you're facing a different direction than when you were at the bottom. But my brain doesn't do that. It just thinks I've gone up. So when I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs, the front of the house is on my left-hand side. When I get to the top of the stairs, the front of the house is on my right-hand side. And my brain struggles so much with that. It thinks that somehow the house is moved round. I mean, I know I've moved round, obviously, but my brain won't cope. It just can't. It's just like your windows are on the wrong side of the house. It's really funny. And I just can't. I don't know whether other people struggle with that or if it's just me. But my kids will say, when they do their maths and they do these, I think it's called transformation, anyone who does maths will correct me, where he says, oh, here's a square on not square, like say this shape. Imagine it turned round by 90 degrees and then draw it plotted on the graph here. I was like, no, I could never do that. I could do it if I had the grid references and I had to calculate it, but to try and imagine whether it's right or not, I couldn't. So it's at a disadvantage because a lot of people would turn it around in their head and then just plot it. I just couldn't. But my sons don't have this. They can visualise in their head, which is an advantage to them when they're doing their A-level maths. I don't know if they do these transformations. I don't think they do geometry and shapes really at A-level. It's more sort of calculus and vectors and mechanics and things. Right, I'm going to get a darker blue to do some of the detailing. I think it'll be fun. What should we grab? Let's grab this one. This is number 3. This is just the blue, it's called. It's the one we use for the berries. And basically, I'm just going to colour over all these little details. I just think it will lift it a little bit. And because we do it on all of them, I think they'll still tie together. And they don't really look like they're a matching set of china, but I think it's quite nice just to acknowledge these details. There are so many of them, but if you feel that's too complex, you could just leave it without this. There's no right or wrong. You need to remember that with colouring. It's always just, it's up to you. It's your creation, your imagination, your effort, and for you. You don't ever have to show anybody what you've done. I think I'm going to make this bottom, half a little bit darker. Try not to put blue on the table. But yes, it's for you, so you don't ever have to show anyone. If it's not something that if you feel like you don't want to, don't. Or even if you're really proud, only show it to people you know would appreciate it as well, would be my advice. I was showing a picture to my son last night. He was pondering and looking hard. I said, oh, you're going to find a criticism. I was happy with it, so I didn't. It was fine with me for him to say anything. And he said, well, why are those leaves like that? This is number 80, it's the silver and the grey. I'm going to do this spoon in silver. I'm going to leave a little white bit. And he said, came up with some criticism about the way the leaves were coloured on the tree. Now, we have these little leaves. I'm going to do the blackberries first in the dark disc 6, which is our violet. Now, I love colouring blackberries, and I love colouring each little circle individually. These are very small, so instead of doing that, I'm going to colour it as a whole. So I'm going to colour it vaguely, lightly, then do it darker around the edge to the middle, like that. And this is tricky because we've got all these leafy bits in between. So I'm actually just going to colour that what I can see is berries. Try and leave the leaves. Leave the leaves. Leave the leaves? Leave the leaves. And I am thinking I may have to, my brain is saying, I may have to do those in green. Anyways, let me think. Let's do this here. Do you think it's, I think it could, I'm going to do it as jam because I can make it pinky and I think it'll match better than, say, honey. This is number 23. This is the Bordeaux. I haven't used this yet. And this is a sort of really dark pinky red, which I think will look nice for this. And we're going to sort of layer it inside. I want to make the inside bit a little bit darker if I can, like that. Now, we could do the apples. I mean, are they apples? These were apples in red as well. It's quite pink for apples, isn't it? I think maybe we'll do them half red, half green. So I'll show you how to do that. It's quite fun. So we go red here on the side and then just fade like that. Do that on all of them. I keep them all the same. They wouldn't all be the same, but I think it's just gives some sort of continuity. Now, I know it's weird that I've decided to go to regular colours with my food. When that one's upside down, apple. When our leaves and things are just unrealistic, but it's just what my brain is making me do. So forgive me. Try to take that colour across a bit and lightly so that you can slightly sort of blend it almost into the green. I mean, obviously red and green aren't going to blend perfectly, but I think it will look better if it fades a bit into the other one. There we go. Before I do my green, I'm just going to grab my brown. I'm trying to find it. Here it is, 76. The one we use for the table. I'm going to use for the little stem sticks on the apple. What do you call it? We call it a stick, I think, because it's a bit of the twig, isn't it? I'm doing that now, even though it seems a bit odd, because I think otherwise I might forget to do it. It's as simple as that. And these as well. Do you think these are apples as well? I think I might do them as apples as well. I wasn't sure if they might be plums, but I think I'm going to do them as apples. They had a big abundance of apples. It's Elves, isn't it, that made this feast, if you've read Ivy. It's a really nice book. I need to do a bit more in it, really. But I've got so many nice books. Our other half of apple, I'm going to do, I think, in number 50, which is the Willow Green. I think it's probably the one that's going to match best with this colour. Slightly overlap it into that pink Now, I sort of haven't done any green yet, but once we do a few more things green, I don't think it'll look quite so odd. I think at the moment having a green looks a little bit strange, but we're going to do the leaves, and you've got the top of the blackberries to do. Once we've got a few more greens in here, I think it'll just work. We're not going to introduce too many other colours. We've got to work out what they are. I think I normally colour them as sort of some sort of nut. We've also got to do our pie. Now I wasn't going to introduce warm colours, but it's pastry, so it's going to be that sort of warm colour, isn't it? We can't really do it anything else. Right, there's that green. Now I'm going to grab a darker green. This is number 5. I think this is the one I want. It is the green. It's just called green. I'm going to sharpen it, and I'm going to do the tops of the blackberries and the leaves on the apples with it. Okay, and I'm not going to do anything too special. Just block it in because they're so small. You could try and add some shading in. I just don't think there's space, personally. It's tricky enough just getting the green in the space, let alone trying to do anything fancy. I'm just trying to concentrate and make sure I don't miss any out, really. That's my main concern here. Now I think in the story it's sort of night time, but I can't quite remember. So I think it's quite, the colours, the sort of pinks and purples look quite twilighty. Now we've got these 2 containers have got something in. I'm not sure whether to worry about that. I'm just going to grab a really light yellow. We've got number 10, which is actually called light yellow. I'm going to use it for the apple because there might be a little bit of colour to it. There we go. And I'm going to do those nuts, the table colour, which is 76. But I'm going to do them harder so they won't look the same. I'm going to try and make them a little lighter in the middle so they look a bit shiny. In fact, this colour almost looks like chocolate. They could be little truffles. Or sort of Brazil nuts, something like that. I do think they're probably almonds, but never mind. I didn't really want to do too many different colours. As I say, I'm going to have to do something for that pastry. There we go. I'm thinking that I'm going to make those yellow. I'm going to use this light yellow, and thinking it could be lemonade. I don't know, maybe not, but that's my thought. So now our pie, I'm thinking I'm going to have to use 16, which is a more warm colour. I'm going to do a layer all over to start with. Now I'm thinking it might be a little bit dark on the edges, just because of its shape and the way the pie might cook. And then along each bit here, I'm going to make it a bit darker. I'm probably doing it wrong, because I'm thinking, oh, those bits that are sticking out might be lighter and creating a shadow, but actually they'd be closer to the heat source in the oven, they'd probably be darker. But I've started doing it this way now. I think it works okay. I'm absolutely useless at making pastry. Firstly, I overwork it so it goes dry and rubbery. I also always want to try and make it homemeal, so it's horrible. And yeah, don't think I need to do any more to make it wrong. But I'm trying to reach my soft pastels, which are over on the other side of my desk. I've got my bag with my little cloths in to apply the colour, just these makeup pads. let's just move across so you can see. These are the Mungyo Pastels. Oops, I knocked my cloth on the floor. Oh, bear with me. There we go. Yeah, these are the... I can't move my chair. There we go. These are the Mungyo Pastels. I haven't tried any other brand apart from Conti Paris, which I had as a child, and they were fine, but they dried out. So I can't say how they compare to other brands, but I like them. Now, background. I was originally, my plan was to do it blue. Got a lot of blue going on, and then I thought maybe just pink. But I'm thinking that maybe a light purple might work better, because we haven't got a lot of purple going on, but it'll match with everything. So we've got 2 purples here, that's all. That's more of a blue. So I'm going to use this light one, okay? And I'm just going to brush my cloth gently across and just start to add a bit of purple. Now, purple is quite a difficult colour to use. I find it can often look very muddy, and because it seems to have a lot of grey in and can look a bit icky. But I'm hoping that it will just finish it off. It's very pale. I don't want it to be too dark. I just want there to be a background. I don't want it to be white. And it's just an easy way to add a bit of colour. Very simply, very quickly. If you don't have soft pastels, you can add this with light and pencil. I don't have a light purple in this set, but in the Ergos there is a light. If you've got the 36 Ergos, there's a light purpley colour. I don't know what it's called. If you've got a bigger set of Design Journey pencils, I'm sure you would have a light colour that would work for this. But for me, this is so much quicker than pencil, which is why I do love to use them for a background. People will ask me about fixatives. I do have some. I'm not going to worry about using one on this page because this is only a light covering. For one thing, when I close the book, it's only going to be against the calendar page, so if it comes off, it won't matter. I find the more you work it into the page, the less likely it is to come off. But if you've got a smudgy pencil, then the more you work it, the more you might risk smudging your pencil. So you need to be a bit aware and a bit careful of that. And but yeah, fixatives are fine, but they smell bad. That's why I don't use them. Don't like the smell. Even one I've got that's not smelly still smells. It doesn't catch in your throat and it's not really horrible, but it smells a bit, and also it seems to be wetter and makes my page curl, which I again don't like. There we go. So it might be difficult. You can see there's definitely some purple on my cloth. It might be hard for you to see that there's any in the background. Now I think a little bit of white pen might just lift this page. So I'm going to use my cloth to lean my hand on so I don't, oops. It looks really mucky. These bits are where I've used it before and I've washed it out and it's stained, but it still means that I can reuse it, which is fine. So I've got a white Posca pen here, and I'm going to try and do a few white dots here and there on the flowers. Now, I did say when we were colouring the flowers that they probably wouldn't show up, but I want to just have a go. Because I think a little bit of white can just really lift a page. So I'm going to have a go, and you can judge for yourself whether you think it's going to be, whether it's worth it. But I shall put a bit down on the table as well. There's some dots there, but I think I'll put a little bit in there where it obviously, well, I say obviously, the dark pen, the white pen shows up better when there's on top of dark colouring. So putting a little bit there shows up a lot more. Yeah, here. I want to put a little bit on the edge of the pots just to make them look a little bit more shiny. and it sort of draws our eye into the picture a bit more, because the white, I can put a bit on here where it's going to be shiny, that jam. We could make the apples a little bit shiny as well, because they might be. Yeah. If you put it, the red side is darker, so if we put the shine on that side, it will show up more. And where else could we put a little bit? So you could dot it onto the blackberries, onto each bit, but I think we'll just put a bit in the middle, because that's how we've done the shine on those. Maybe just a little bit on these. Here and there. Bit of shine. It shows up more on these because it's the darker colour. We could make our nuts / chocolate truffles. Chocolate on the brain. There we go. Okay. And then down here on this one, we could put a few dots around the edge of there, just lightly, because we don't want to remember where our eye is being drawn in our picture. And we don't necessarily want our eye drawn to these flowers. Whoops, I just knocked a pencil on the floor. Never mind. This is really the centre of the picture where we've got this extra bit of colour. So hopefully that is what comes across. But I think we are done. So it looks really different. I was going to say I'm not sure it's how I imagined. I didn't imagine. But it was quite fun doing leaves of a different colour, and I think it does tie together. Even though we've got a bit of green in there, I think it works. But, you know, it's up to you. Think about whether you think it works and whether you want to do it similarly or not. But I hope you had fun anyway. Thank you so much for watching. Have a really lovely day. Hopefully see you tomorrow. But for now, happy colouring.